Greetings and welcome to another video from odooclass.com. In this video we're going to look at some of the new interactive buttons that are in Odoo. The ones that have replaced the static buttons that had no information. These new buttons look a little cleaner, and we're going to show you how to tie them in to a function to make them show the right information. So it's going to have a little bit of Python in it. It's going to have some XML to be the new Odoo API, and it's also going to look at the new depends and the new ways that we handle calculated functions. So prerequisite for this might be, like Odoo Developer Volume 1 or Volume 2. So to see what I'm talking about, let's go here to Sales and under Customers, and we're going to create a customer. And this is just a standard Odoo installation. I'm going to do that. And we're just going to create a customer and save it here. And so what I'm talking about are these buttons over here. So you notice this is going to calculate the sales orders and how much money has been invoiced for the customer, so you can always see that. So if I go down here to sales orders, and we'll just make a quick sales order for this guy. Cheap service, $2. Save, and we'll just leave it in this quotation form because that'll be fine for what we need. If we go over here, you'll notice that now we have one sales to show how that works. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a real-world example that came from a request that a lot of times when you're looking at a customer record, you can see their sales here, but if you're on the phone with them and they're talking to you, or if you're in accounts receivable, for example, you might want to know their payments. So what we're going to do for this example is we're going to take this same kind of idea here, but we're going to add a button so it'll show us the payments and the count of the payments here. And we're also going to make it so that when you click this button, that as this one takes you to quotations and sales, we're going to make it so that it takes you to the customer payments. So despite this sounding like quite a bit of things to do, it really won't be that hard. Odoo's framework makes it rather easy to do. So let's get started by first setting up the button and just getting this button here to show up. Now what we've done to start with is using the scaffolding and have created just a blank module, and this blank module is located in here called resPartner_pay button. We have a video on scaffolding that will help you set this up if you haven't done it already. But this is just right after the scaffolding has been done, and we've got basically blank templates here. So if I open this up, you'll see that this is the template that comes from the scaffolding. So I'm just going to delete this out for now and save it. And just to get a look, let's go here to the OpenERP here, and you'll notice that we have our resPartner_pay button, and we could put in a description. We're going to say add payments button to the customer screen, and we're going to add the dependency for sale here because we're going to be looking at that at that module. We're going to I should say that there could be dependencies, and we know that we're only going to use this if there's the sales order module installed, because if it's not, you're not going to see that menu. So we're going to save that. And there's, you can fill all this other information in. That should be standard. The purpose of this video is to show you things you might not already know. Okay, so then the other file we're going to be working with is models. So let's open that up, and you'll notice here that it gives us comments. We're going to go ahead just while we're in here and do just a couple of things. We know that we want this to be named res.partner, because if we name it different, it's not going to extend the res.partner class with the new fields we need. it's going to instead create a new class and a whole new model, and that's not what we want. And then we also want here inherit. And for now, we're just going to leave this because we're gonna extend this later with code. And so we'll just save that for right now. I don't think it'll give us any trouble. Otherwise, we can comment it out. But this will give us a place to start with that. Now, where I want to start with is getting this button to show up here. So we're gonna go to templates and open it up and bring it over. So you'll see here that we got OpenERP data and open ending brackets. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to create a record that's going to actually create that button. Now I've got the code here so that you don't have to wait for me to type it out line by line. And so we're going to bring in the first part of this right now, and I'll copy and paste it into here. And the most important part of this is this should be familiar to you, this record ID and the model. Again, a prerequisite for this video is probably OpenERP Developer Volume 1, which is in the library as well if you're watching this. But the inherit ID here, this base.view_partner_form, is where we're telling Odoo to extend this form. Now, as is typical, and if you see me in other videos, I like to go in and activate the developer mode. So now, if there was any question as to what form you're working on and what ID you need, one of the easiest ways is to go up here and hit Edit Form, and right now you'll see right here the external ID that you need. So that's how that external ID, let me get the right form up here. That's how that external ID gets specified here. So now that's the basic of it, and now we'll naturally have a field name equals arc that's going to start off the architecture for this form that we're going to override. So everything else is going to go between here, and we're going to end off our field, and then we would end off our record like that. And what we want to do is we want to create an XPath in order to find this buttons area and then tell it to position inside of that our new button. So for that we use this right here, this XPath expression div. We're looking for the name equals buttons position inside. Now I would encourage you to look at other modules that extend sale or extend purchasing, extend MRP, whatever form you're working on. One of the best ways to see how all this works is to look at some of the code that already exists. But in this case, it's pretty simple. We're looking for this name buttons, and buttons happens to be the name of the container that holds these buttons right here. If we go and edit the form view and look down this this area down here, I'm not sure, let me do a find in here. Buttons, name buttons right here. So it's going to find this in this form, and then what we're saying is that we're going to insert inside of this our new button that we want to build. So let's go ahead and grab that code as well and paste that in there for you. And so you can get these buttons from other places in the code. We're gonna change this to say pay view voucher tree. So this is going to be where we're going to show the payments themselves. So we're going to have to create another record for that. And then this says here that we're going to make this button invisible if this is not a customer. So if customer is false, if this isn't a customer, we're going to hide it. So that would mean that that this really is to show customer payments. We're using the FAUSD for like a $ icon here. And then here is where we're going to actually show the payments and the count. So you'll notice we have a voucher count. We're using the term voucher because Odoo uses account underscore voucher as the model that holds the payments for customers. So this right here is the basic function of the button. We're just to quickly review the important parts of this. The inherited ID right here, it pulls and adds it to the proper form. Right here, the XPath expression that finds the button's container and or div tag and says that inside of that we want to put this button, and this button is going to need to have an action, and that action is going to be named this, which we'll define that here in just a second. We limit it to just showing if there's customers, and of course we want to count up these vouchers and show a number of the accurate number of payments. So now the next part of this view that we need to establish, again, to save watching me type this out, if this is a little too advanced for you, you'll want to review the other videos. But I'm going to copy and paste in now what the view looks like for these payments. And it's going to be rather simple. I need to change this to say pay. Okay, so this pay view voucher tree that you see right here is going to tie to pay view voucher tree here, so that when we click this button, it knows what view to show. Now, how does it know to show vouchers? Here in res model, we have account.voucher. So this field right here is what's going to tell it that we're looking for payments. And the context here, this search underscore default partner underscore ID active ID, is going to provide the context for this voucher. So it's automatically going to define the search for us, and you'll actually be able to see that visually in the filter when we run this. Now the tree here should be self-explanatory. We're naming it payments, and then we're defining each of the fields that we want to show up. And to be honest with you, I pretty much copied and pasted this right out of the payments that's available in the standard view when you go in and look at customer payments. Part of the reason I'm bringing this in is that we can, for example, we really don't need to see the journal ID here most likely, because we know the journal. So we can clean this up a little bit. Maybe we don't need to see the period either, because we're just this is more of a customer friendly. Maybe the example would be for a customer service representative, and we also wouldn't need to have this audit be invisible, because most likely the only reason that is being shown here as invisible is so that another form or where it's being used can operate on it and provide certain filters. So we're going to take that off and see how that works with that out of there. But this will show us the actual payments. This is where we describe the button and extend the customer form for that button. So let's go ahead and save that. And now let's go back and look at our models, because we're going to have some code in here that's required in order to get this voucher count to show up. So pretty much everything that we're going to write in the models is going to be designed to set up this voucher count. So we go back to here, and let's open up models. And so we've already started saying that we definitely want to extend res.partner. And then the question becomes, well, what do we want to extend it with? Well, first of all, we're going to need the voucher IDs that are tied to this partner in order to work with and get an accurate count. So we want to make them available to this model, and so we set up account voucher IDs here as a one-to-many, and you'll notice it says account.voucher here. So this is what's going to tie and provide us a list of all the partner IDs that go with this voucher. And so the other part of that is that now that we got the IDs, we need to set up what is called a functional field, or I guess you could call it a computed field now, to count these vouchers. And so I'm going to copy and paste the code I already have here so you can see what we're looking at. And so voucher count is going to be an integer. It's going to count up the vouchers. Just like the other example was counting up sales order, this is going to count up vouchers. And here we're using the new Odoo API where we're not using columns, we're specifying them with equals. So we're not using the old Odoo 7, this is an Odoo 8 example. And you'll notice that with that we use this compute equals, and we have underscore voucher underscore count, and we have a string here that says number of vouchers. So we're basically here setting up the function and telling what function we want to use. And so now the fun part comes in of placing the function, and it's really a rather simple function. So we're really only going to be looking at about another 7 lines of code total here, and we'll walk through what each line does. Now this API one, from what I understand, it will automatically take, and I think it probably will do what this does right here, this for partner in self. So we're going to try actually I need to leave that in because of the way we designed this. So we are going to leave that in, but in a future video we might try to rewrite this so that it doesn't have to do for partner and self, because from what I understand of this API.1, it's going to process this independently of and automatically iterate this for the partners, or for whatever this model is that we're working in. So but we know this works, and so we're going to start at the top with this API 1, and then that is part of the new Odoo 8, and what that says is that's going to fire this off for every time that it's in the browser or in a browse list. Now the depends is the most important part of this, that you understand how this works. And what depends says is that this functional field is going to be re-evaluated when any items in this list change. And in this case we're saying if the account voucher IDs change, or if their state happens to change, if any of these are true, and I think we could probably get by with just the IDs. We'll check that later. When we were doing it with sales, when I was using this, I was doing it with sales orders and quotes, and we wanted to know the difference between when it was a sales order versus a quote. So we should be able to actually remove this out here. So we're just going to say anytime that the voucher IDs change, in other words, that would be the count of them. So if one is removed or one is added, then it's going to call this count and recalculate this. So this depends is important because it notifies the Odoo framework, the 8.0 API framework, when this computation for voucher count, when this needs to happen. So this is your trigger, so to speak, and this is the new Odoo 8 way of doing it. It's a lot more clean and a lot more reliable than the way they did before with the store and the complex dictionary entries you needed down here. So after that, that's the new 8.0 API, and you'll always want to define what your depends are for your functional fields so you'll know when they need to be triggered. Once again, look at the code that's already inside of the Odoo modules that are there, and you'll see some good examples of how this works, particularly inside of the account module. And the other one I believe is the events. The base, accounts, and events are really the 3 modules right now you need to be looking at if you want to learn the 8.0 API. Most of the other modules have not really been adapted yet. Okay, so now part of this is to make our life easier. So we're kind of reverting a little bit back to the way 7 processes things. And so what we'll do in a future video, most likely, especially if you're interested, let us know, is we'll rewrite this piece so that it's a little more 8.0 API friendly. Because this part right here could that I'm selected, this could be rewritten to be more efficient and be a little bit more in line with the 8.0 API, but it works fine as it is. So what we're doing is we're basically getting a cursor in the user here, and I actually might as well optimize this a little bit while we're at it. So I'll take this and send it here, and I'll take this and put it here, just so you can kind of get an idea of why that was done. Is that the new API doesn't pass CR. You know, you used to be familiar with this kind of thing here, where you'd have the CR and the UID and that kind of stuff getting passed along. You don't pass that along anymore, but it can be referenced here using this syntax. So we simplify it here, but when you're using this kind of old style search, we're passing that along. Now, so for each of our partners that come in here, we're going to basically, inside of that, we're going to grab the account voucher, a reference to account voucher module, and we put that in this, and we should go ahead and make this, until I did take this from that sales. So we're going to say voucher object, just to make it a little clearer here, and then therefore we need to replace it out here. So we're going to now search our voucher objects, and we're going to get our voucher IDs in this search. Now, which vouchers do we want to get? Well, we only want the vouchers that match our partner. So this is really the magic of it, and what could probably be a lot of this condensed down now that you can do things a little faster. But we're gonna search here and grab only the vouchers from this model where it matches this partner, and those vouchers are going to then be put into this IDs variable here, voucher IDs. Then this is back, this is Odoo 8. One of the nice things about the Odoo 8 API is we can assign this functional field by just saying partner dot voucher underscore count equals the length of those order IDs. So that's going to update this voucher count, which any place there that displays it, it's going to display it accurately. So we're going to save this, and with a little bit of luck, I'm going to close this out, and we're going to go back here to settings. Sorry, let me get to our modules, and I think I can just put in pay, and you'll see our res partner pay button here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit install on this, and we'll see if we get an error, and we do. So let's we wanted to do this kind of on purpose so you could see what we might have troubleshooting. So we have a problem with our XPath. I probably didn't specify the in tag for our XPath. I don't remember putting it in. So smart if anyone caught me making that mistake. So let's pull back up our template. To do it here. Get into view. And sure enough, I forgot to specify this ending XPath tag. So I like to leave up the errors that happen, because I think it's important, because you're going to have them when you write your code. You're going to leave out tags, you're going to make mistakes. And so what we want to do is, as we get in these more advanced videos, I'm going to be cutting and pasting more code and showing you and walking you through the code, because we need to move faster so you can learn more. The basic videos, we took more time typing the code out. But this time, when I install, hopefully we'll get past that and we'll not have an error. And now let's go to sales, and we'll pull up our customer, And now we get another. It says order IDs is not defined. Now I probably made another mistake when I was changing out some of that code to make it a little more, make my variable names a little better. So I said order IDs here. So it's another good example of, I'm trying to make it a little more, make my variables named a little bit better, but I forgot to change this one. So I need to change this to say voucher IDs, because I changed this from saying order IDs to voucher IDs. I naturally needed to change this to say voucher IDs. So we'll save that. And in this case, it's probably inevitable that we need to reinstall this module or do an upgrade on it. So we're going to do pay again. So I was a little sloppy there. You'll notice I had to uncheck apps to make sure if you're just doing modules and extending applications, then you want to make sure you uncheck the apps here when you go to find your module. We go back to sales, and we got another error. Now it says global name order IDs is not defined. Did I not do an upgrade on that? Maybe I found it and didn't do it. I thought I did. And this is one of those things that sometimes you get into where you have to start and stop. Sometimes you might have to, yep, sure enough. Notice it says, it's ironic, it says global name order IDs is not defined, but you'll notice that right here that it's showing on the length of voucher ID. So it's clearly having an issue with the fact that this was once installed and that the global name order IDs was at one time the value. And you'll notice this more with calculated fields because it kind of is like it keeps that stuck in there. So let's see how we can resolve that, because these are the kinds of things you're going to have happen to yourself. And it can be frustrating. So one of the first things I would do is just uninstall this altogether and see if we can get it out. And I also happen to have this running, so I can also look through and see. Okay, there's where it said the order IDs were not defined, even though it's obviously not. You're not seeing the ordered IDs here. So let's try one more time to do an install and watch as it does the install to see if we get any errors. So we're not getting any errors during the install. Let's go back over, and we still got an order ID. It's not defined. So at that point, that's frustrating because unless I'm missing something, let's take a quick look at the code just to make sure that I'm not missing something here. I'm going to actually do a find order IDs. Okay, so yeah, there is no order IDs in my code anymore, but as you can see, Odoo's holding on to them inside this database. And this is one example of why you don't want to work on live databases, because for this, it's going to be really easy for me to just simply make a new database to fix this. I can make a new database and it'll most likely fix this issue. But you'll notice here that when I'm looking at this, and I can do another find, there is no order IDs in any of my code or any of my modules. So clearly what's happened is it's pulled it into this database, even with the uninstall of it, and reinstall through their framework. It hasn't been effective. So what do we do? Let's log out and look at that our database name is respartner_paybutton. So we're gonna cancel this running right now, and this is going to be an attempt for us to force an update on this. respartner_paybutton is our database, and we want to do an update. I guess I named it the same, right? Yeah, I guess I did. respartner_paybutton. pay button. So I happen to name my database the same as my module. So I'm telling it to do an update on this module against this database when it starts. If I name both those right, it's going to now force that view. So we didn't get any errors. Let's see what happens when we look at sales now. Okay, and that shows you why you can't always rely upon the upgrade module. I'm glad that in a way that happened, because it shows you how you can think everything's broke. You're using their upgrade module thing, and it was stuck on looking at that order IDs. It was somewhere inside the database in the views that it writes in there, and so that shows you that you want to go up and do this this right here, this -D on your database and -U to tell it to update the module that you need to update, and it fixed our code. So now if I click on this, you'll notice at the top here that it's restricted this to Acme products, so we're only seeing Acme products payments. And I can in fact hit create and it defaults them in here. We're going to give them a $300 payment. Now this will just be a payment on their account. And if we go back to customers and click on them, it shows one sales there, but now when we go in here we can see our single payment. We could click on this and duplicate it for them, give them another payment, and we go back in. Now we see it updated to 2 payments. So while this is maybe a 35-minute video or so, 35-minute video, it should have shown you quite a bit of things that you can put into real use at modifying Odoo. I'll do a quick rundown. We basically use the scaffolding to create this module, this blank module, inside our models.py. This is all we have. The important parts to notice is that we're inheriting from res.partner to extend that model with the fields we need. We named it exactly the same, so it doesn't create a new model or a derivative of res.partner, but instead extends res.partner. We have the depends on here so that when the number of account voucher IDs change, it notifies this voucher count to recalculate. We loop through the partner that might be in the browse that it's looking at here, and we get a reference to account.voucher. Once we got that reference to account.voucher, we do a search against it, and in this case we're looking only for where the partner ID in that model matches partner.id. How does it get this partner? It's right here. So in this loop, so because for each partner itself, it's gonna do that. So that matches the ID, and then here, using the new Odoo 8 syntax, we can set this partner.voucher_count equal to the length of voucher IDs. This also means that you do not need to have a different method for every functional field that you use. For example, if we wanted to have the total payments and make a total, it wouldn't be that hard. We could, using the same method, after we got the IDs, we could look up their total amounts and put them right here in a partner.voucher sum, for example, and then under here make a voucher_sum that it could call this same compute method. If this is something you'd like to see more of, tell us in feedback and send us an email, and we can try to make a video that would explain that more clearly. On the template side, let's just take a quick look and review what we did here. We went down here and extended the res partner form by using this reference right here. So this is how it knows how to inherit from the form and add to it this button. Now you'll notice that it says in this XPath expression, it's looking for a div tag at name equals buttons. Earlier in the video, we actually went in the form so you could see how it actually finds those buttons div tag and positions inside of that the button that we've added. So this right here that I've selected is our button. We have this tie-in right here to the action, so you'll always have your action name here match where you want it to go. And then finally we use this field string payments here, and this is where we specify our voucher count. So we specify that field now, and because it's a functional field, it'll already be recalculated anytime our account voucher IDs change. Now the view that gets called when they click the button, this view pay view voucher tree, that's going to be picked up right here. So that's where it picks up pay view voucher tree to show this, and then this is pretty much just a standard view of the payments. So that's pretty much it. We walked through it pretty much step by step, and then we did a quick rundown. I hope you find this video valuable, and you can use it to make your own buttons that have dynamic data in them, and can, you know, in this case obviously be conditionally shown, so that because this has to be a customer, if this same button wouldn't show up inside of suppliers, for example, if you had purchasing installed. So that wraps up this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.